From downbeat anti-heroes
to corrupt cops and dying pop stars.
This week we'll be discussing Thunderbolts, Havoc and Cleo from 5 to 7.
This is The Film Angle.
Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
Let's get into it. Kris, do you feel like there's a added pressure to be kind of more visually ready for these recordings now?
Have you got my good side?
I think so. We're not a full-blown video podcast yet, but if you follow us on Instagram or TikTok, you'll have noticed that we have started adding some video clips to our repertoire. Yeah. Is it repertoire? I think repertoire is the right word, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, like we're just expanding the portfolio.
Yeah. It's testing the waters. Seeing, do people want to see us? Do they not? Will we one day be a full-blown video podcast? Which always sounds weird to say, but that's where the future is, apparently.
And do you ever ask yourself, would I want to see us? And my brain says no comment. No, we'll. You know, I think it's a good thing. It keeps you in check. It makes me like sit up more straight.
Yeah.
2 months later, cut to me sitting in one of those neon Twitch streaming rooms with soundproofing behind me. Yeah, no, I'm liking this direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. We try all we can to kind of, I don't know, give extra tidbits to people online, but also I guess at the end of the day, it is just to try and promote the film angle, isn't it? That's what we're trying to do. So yeah, different technologies and stuff, trying to figure it all out. It's always funny. I think it is an AI system that figures out how, which parts of the podcast are best to clip. It doesn't always get it right. Usually I'm siphoning through about 30 different clips to figure out which is the best one, and some of them are pretty naff, but maybe that's more of an us problem than the...
Well, we don't have the luxury of having a producer like all these great shows do. Maybe one day, but you kind of are our producer.
Well, this is a team effort. This is a team effort. It does help that my real job now has me doing more podcasty stuff. And actually I'm going to be heading to the podcast show I'm trying to think for like when this episode comes out, it's like 2 weeks away, I think, which is the big national podcast conference thing in London. And I've found my way, into that. Though my work fully know that, it's part of the reason I'm doing more podcasts. Because they were like, we know you're doing this outside of work. And I'm like, I'm very, very passionate about podcasts.
Nice.
But I'm going with work, but
transferable skills, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm work Alex during the day and film angle Alex during the night.
Yeah, just put your coil on in the evening and don't a cape. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, if anybody listening is going to the podcast show and wants to, I don't know, hang out, I'm just going for the one day. I'll be there on I think it's the Wednesday. I'll be there Tuesday night before it starts. London.
Any excuse for you to have a beer. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I'll be going with my my film angle business cards. But also Work Alex. Work Alex is going to be there. Don't you worry.
Yeah, just
in case anybody from my work is listening. Work Alex is there. He's there first and foremost.
Yeah, you should be like Two-Face and just like half your body has got your work uniform on, and then the other half has got like a utility belt and like a fedora.
Well, I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny? Do you remember those like old t-shirts, like novelty t-shirts that you used to get? Somebody would be like, ask me about my dinosaur, and then you'd lift up your t-shirt and there'd be a dinosaur underneath on the other side. I was thinking of like wearing my work uniform that says like ask me about my podcast, and then I just like lift up my t-shirt and it just says the film angle.
that is good. That's aggressive marketing, but it works.
But yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice doing, I really like doing this with you, Kris, and being able to take it into the real work world as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to come back and tell us, what you've learned, or
if I've learned anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of video podcast stuff there, sessions wise, lots of AI stuff, which, obviously we have used AI to assist us, but we are not going to be using it to create content for us.
Yeah, I think at that point we lose our souls, right?
Yes. Yeah, we just say like, hey, quick, can you AI, can you just quickly review this with my and Chris's voice? Would that be okay?
Restructures your face, changes your hair color.
Yeah, and can you make me a little bit more clean shaven and a little bit more buff?
But then it does nothing, and you're like, oh my god, I'm already final form. I'm perfect.
Well, shall we get into our Perfect Podcasts reviews of the day?
Yeah. We got multiple flavors. This is a triad of different types of cinema, as always, that we like to do on the show. So
absolutely, we're returning to the Marvel world with Thunderbolts. Mm-hmm. We're returning to the Netflix world with Havoc, which kind of makes me think we always kind of harp on about like Marvel movies and Netflix movies, and then we keep reviewing them. But they are just churning them out, aren't they? I guess
it's like, oh man, it's like it's FOMO in a way, right? Or well, I guess it's what we try to think of what most likely, a peek behind the curtain here, but we most likely what our listeners will be watching over the week. We will want to be in the conversation, have a dialogue with people on our letterbox. These are the movies that are being most watched at the minute. And then we have a little bit of indulgence at the end of the show. So like, and sometimes these movies really hit, and maybe today they did.
Yeah, maybe they did. And then, yes, at the end of the show, Kris did finally catch up with Cleo from 5 to 7.
Yeah.
So
barely
back on our Sight and Sound blind spots. When did you watch it, Kris? Did you watch it this morning?
I did not watch it this morning. I watched it last night.
Okay.
Yes, it was squeaky bum time. But I squeezed it in, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you about it and your 2-week-old memory of that movie now.
Yes, thanks for that. It's such a great film to try and remember from 2 weeks ago. So many weird different intricacies within that. But let's get on to the big release of the week, which is the new Marvel film, Thunderbolts.
As always, Alex, Marvel Studios, we've made it like no sort of secret that I'm usually quite reluctant to kind of dive headfirst into these movies now. Mm-hmm. I feel like there was a divide. People who always got fed up of Marvel pretty quickly were like, okay, I'm fed up, fatigue, blah, blah. But I feel like more people who were resistant to the fatigue now, I feel like I'm hearing more people say that they're fed up of Marvel more than ever now, which was really interesting.
Which is kind of where I stand as well, isn't it? It probably only 3 or 4 episodes ago we were talking about Captain America: Brave New World and how it's just kind of not as exciting to wait for a Marvel film these days.
Yeah, terrible movie. Yeah,
terrible movie. Was it terrible? I don't know.
No, I mean, like it squeaks by just being barely functional. It's like it's a nap of a movie, though. It is a nap.
Yes, yeah. It was the last of the Marvel films that kind of suffered from this COVID time, this increase of Disney Plus coming into the picture and wanting to amp up all this TV content. And an article got released over the last few days that really kind of went behind the scenes of Marvel Studios in the early 20s.
Right, okay.
Has basically found that Kevin Feige was stretched thin, could barely juggle the balls, did not want to do a lot of the TV stuff that was happening, but wanted to just kind of like, stay in the good books of the Disney shareholders and kind of produce all these different shows. But at the end of the day, he couldn't keep on top of everything. And people were literally chasing him for him to kind of give them notes on different films. And by the time he came back with feedback on shows or films, it was too late. They couldn't change anything. These things were set in stone. So in the film world, Captain America: Brave New World very much is the final of these films that got, messed up in this whole mess. And Thunderbolts is the first in this new iteration of Marvel that has streamlined everything, gone back to basics, and, more focus, more control. So apparently the idea now is less TV, even less films, but the focus is more on films than TV.
Cool.
Trying to get back into the old world of when Marvel could barely put a foot wrong.
Well, that sounds idealistic.
It does sound idealistic.
Forecasting there, but hopefully, I hope that the Thunderbolts is kind of like a good precursor to that being a reality, because I'm gonna say, Alex, I kind of really enjoyed this one, despite my reservations going into it. I thought Thunderbolts was a lot of fun. Asterix, of course.
Yes, Asterix, of course. Well, we won't go into spoilers just yet. We'll give our spoiler-free reviews first, and then we'll let you know when we're about to dive into spoilers. But yes, I seem to agree with you, Chris. I had a lot of fun with this film, which, on the page sounds a little bit odd. You're taking some very B, C, and D-list Marvel characters, most of them villains or anti-heroes from previous films, and you're putting them together to, they essentially form a team to kind of help each other and take down, I don't really want to get into spoilers, so take down a common threat.
Sure.
So should we go with that?
Yeah. This is quite a unique Marvel film in terms of how it juggles villains in the traditional sense. We kind of have two antagonistic presences that are kind of like just handled in a different way than usual. But
yes, yeah, and it is a film that leans more heavily on character stuff than it does plot, even though the story is quite interesting. It's maybe not the most surprising of films, I don't think. I think, when you get into the story, you can kind of see where it's going. But, it doesn't shy away from the fact that these are characters that have done bad things, have had bad things happen to them, and that has left some kind of trauma with them, some kind of emotional stuff that they have to deal with. And this is a film that really kind of wants to dive deep into that, making it one of the darker films in the MCU world, even though it's not overly dark, but it deals with some pretty heavy themes at times, or even like references some pretty heavy themes, which kind of shies away from some of the kind of more goofy stuff that you might find in some other films.
Yeah, I think it definitely does still do, the goofy thing, but in a way that marriages with the sincerity. It is a little bit treacly, this film, especially in its last sort of third. But I think when you have someone like Florence Pugh, and you kind of notice her presence very early on, whenever you're watching a Marvel film, I think we're always used to competent performances. It's very rare that anybody really, really sucks in it. But when you have someone like Florence Pugh and that opening sequence, which is really, really well done and kind of really made me sit deep in my seat and kind of think, okay, we're going for something here. I think she is just with her micro emotions and she's such a great reactor, and you're like, God, yeah, this is another tier of actor that we don't always get in a Marvel film. Not to diss other actors that have been in other Marvel movies, but you can just tell that Florence Pugh comes from a different stock, and it really helps follow a character like Yelena and just kind of really root for her in this journey. She can be a badass, but she's also emoting what needs to kind of happen in the plot, and bounces off all the characters in a really, really, really fun to watch way. So, I think having her at the core center of the movie was really my way in.
Yes, and I think Marvel knew that they had hit gold when casting Florence Pugh in the Black Widow film from a few years back, and realizing that she is kind of one of our big movie stars at the moment. So despite the fact that she's playing a relatively unknown character to the mass public, and even to somebody like me, I don't think, in my comic book reading world, I don't think I've stumbled upon Yelena a lot. Maybe more so in video games, I think. But yeah, it's like I don't know much about her. To be honest, I don't know much about most of these characters. I think the only one I've kind of come into contact with in the comic books, other than like Bucky, obviously, is Ghost, because Ghost is sometimes a bit of a Spider-Man villain. And then obviously Taskmaster's a pretty big one. But yeah, Taskmaster's done very differently in Marvel. And I guess we can chat more about that later as well.
Yeah, I think the thing for me with, going back to Pugh, and I would just kind of remembered here, she's remarkably a lot more human than Marvel-centered characters that we usually get. Like, maybe that's a benefit of having somebody who's potentially more of a blank slate, and potentially that's the same for all the rest of the members of the Thunderbolts, is that our maybe because of that post-COVID Disney Plus era of films that they were all sort of thrown into and TV shows, our memories are a little bit fuzzier on them, and they weren't as clearly defined as people, that they're enough of a blank slate that we could just kind of start from scratch and really develop them as this, like, sort of, it almost feels like an entry level standalone movie that you can sort of watch without maybe even being tuned in at all in the last 5 years. I really think you could enjoy this movie on its own merit.
I agree. They do a pretty good job of introducing all the characters. I think the only one that maybe you'd want a little bit more knowledge of is Bucky, but to be honest, if you're this far through, you've probably seen some of the big MCU films. You've seen The Winter Soldier, you've seen Infinity War and stuff like that. But yeah, you didn't have to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier to get up to speed here. You didn't have to watch Hawkeye. I don't think you watched Hawkeye, did you, Chris?
I didn't see a Hawkeye, no.
There you go. Yelena Belova turns up in that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you could have jumped in on, but yeah, you really didn't have to. I think it does a pretty good job of just being like, this is this character, this is what they've been through, and here they are. The more interesting thing is seeing like how these guys are going to work as a team, and having all those kind of different personalities bounce off of each other, and then have to, come together in a way despite their differences.
Yeah.
And how that happens is quite good. But yeah, should we end our spoiler-free thoughts here? Should we just quickly give an overview of we liked it, right? We liked it. I have a few quibbles. I don't think it's the best Marvel movie or anything like that. I think there was some stuff at the end where it gets a little too MCU-y for me.
Okay.
Almost didn't want to be reminded that it was part of an interconnected universe. I just wanted it to be its own thing sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, like, even before... Oh, no, I can't, because I would spoil it. I almost call myself off there.
But you like it. You like it, yeah?
I'm with you. I like it. I guess, I don't know, because I kind of, like, I break myself away from this franchise so often that the interconnecting stuff doesn't irritate me enough, as opposed to like if I was fully knees deep in it. But yeah, like I can see it there. It's not my favorite stuff in the movie for sure. Yeah.
And also, just final thoughts, spoiler free. It looked like a film. Absolutely.
Like I said, the opening sequence of the movie is really cool. I love that corridor shot, that bird's eye view of Pugh going through a corridor, taking out guys. Very reminiscent of Old Boy. So I was locked in from there. So yeah, really, really, probably one of the better openings I can in recent memory of those films.
A lot of in-camera stunts, not what you could tell was a lot of CGI, and if there was CGI, it was relatively well done. Doesn't feel like a film burdened by reshoots like the new Captain America film did. So just relatively a pretty solid film with an emotional core and an artistic direction in it that makes it stand out amongst some of the other stuff that we've seen recently. So yeah, spoiler-free thoughts, done. Let's get into spoilers, Chris.
Cool.
Shall we? Spoiler warning now. Boop, beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. I don't know how to do these things.
Beep boop 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 beep boop.
I feel like we need to have some kind of sound, maybe.
Yeah, like
beep boop boop beep.
A giant triangle with like an exclamation mark and yeah.
Maybe that's when we're a full-fledged video podcast. Maybe that'll be the way to do it. All right, spoilers. Let's talk about the Bob of it all, Chris.
Oh wow. Okay.
So other than Yelena, who yes, I love Yelena in this film, think she's great. She's the emotional core and the most empathetic character, I think, which allows her to develop a relationship with Bob, who I think was my other favorite character of the film. What about you?
Yeah. I think because his performance is so off kilter compared to everybody else's, and it is atypical of a Marvel film to have a character like this. And like, if you're not really tuned in to what's kind of going on before coming into the movie, his appearance when he first appears in the movie. So the whole thing is that Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Have I got that right?
Fontaine, yeah. She's an actress with a long name who plays a character with a very long name.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan. Anyway, I loved her in this movie. She is such a great little like corporate menace. And usually like Marvel and DC don't know really how to do corporate menaces. They usually become very plain and very, aggravating people, but she just nails it. Finds a sort of humor within that to operate on. That's really, really good.
And very much differentiates her from Nick Fury, which it felt at first like maybe they were trying to make her the new Nick Fury stand-in. But, Nick Fury is a good guy who can sometimes be a bit morally grey.
Yeah.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus here is... like, she is a bad person. Like, hands down, a terrible, terrible human being in these films.
Yeah, she's a terrible human being. The movie teases... The character, yeah. No. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that was an unspoken thing that everybody...
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I don't know anything about her personal life.
She seems pretty cool. She pretty much seems... Her humor in movies seems to be just her.
Yeah. Isn't she a billionaire or something as well? Is she like...
Is that right?
Yeah, she's like an heiress of something. Apparently.
Of Dreyfus Industries.
Yeah. In real life, she is like minted, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she is, like you said, she plays a bad person.
Yes.
Who is really, she's caught in the midst of a whole legal dispute where she is at stake, and all the criminal experiments on people and all the crazy stuff that they've been trying to do is kind of coming to the top of the water, and she's trying to burn all the evidence. And the evidence includes our cast of Thunderbolts that she independently has contracts with all of them without them knowing each other. So she's had them on the payroll for years. They're all private assassins. She sends them all to kill each other without them knowing. And the plan backfires, and they end up kind of forming a team to get out of the incinerator, this building that she's trapped them all in.
The only person who doesn't make it out of there is Taskmaster, who was the villain in the Black Widow films and is unceremoniously shot in the head during this sequence. She barely gets any time in the film. I think a lot of us guessed that. If you watch the trailers, you can tell that she doesn't feature a lot in any of the other scenes. I think there is one teaser trailer at the start which features her very kind of like CGI cut in behind the Thunderbolts when they're in the Avengers Tower. And then in other trailers, she's not there anymore. So that everyone was like, what's going on there? But yeah, which I kind of feel a little bit sad about. I
do as well.
Yeah, like comic book Taskmaster's a very different entity. And I feel sad that Olga Kurylenko could never, or seemingly has never been able to get the chance to play that version of Taskmaster.
Yeah, she is executed pretty quickly in this film. I think she gets a 2-second shot of her face before she gets ended in this
Definitely
movie.
Wasn't on set, right? That did not look like her real life face. I know they put she's got
prosthetic scarring on her face.
Yeah. Because it's quite a sad character in Black Widow.
Yeah,
right?
Isn't the whole thing is like she never really was a villain. She was just brainwashed the entire time.
And she was the child of somebody that Black Widow tried to kill, scarred, and therefore like it's quite sad, but they just like shoot her in the head and they're like, and Ghost shoots her in the head as well, right?
Yeah, and the movie tells us like, no, she's definitely not getting back up again because the blood we're using blood here.
Yes, and then she gets incinerated.
Yes. Oh yeah, bad way to go.
Yeah,
bad way to go.
Yeah.
So that was a long way of saying this is how we're introduced to Bob, who I thought
was
going. Who I thought was going to be like, for a couple of seconds, I was like, oh, this is a little bit of comic relief. That isn't it funny that this guy got lobbed in with these people? And then he's like, oh, okay, this is going to be a character that's going to stay with us for the rest of the movie. Because I wasn't as in tune to the trailers and all the promo stuff as maybe that stuff kind of gave it away. So I had no idea who this guy was. But I loved Lewis Pullman as Bob. I felt like he was quite very different. He kind of reminded me a little bit of like Crispin Glover's performance in like Back to the Future, that sort of like stuttery, anxious mess, which is completely and tied to the theme of the movie later on and his background. But he was a lot of fun, a really different energy. Loved his thing with Pugh, both of those characters kind of relating to each other and really like bolstering her humanity too. It only improved both the characters in tandem. I thought that was done well.
Yes, yeah, I thought he was very good as well. I liked that he was I almost a bit of a stand-in for the average audience member, maybe, like that kind of like socially awkward, a little bit anxious.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like if you did like a video game of this where you had to create your own superhero and then you're level 1, you're thrusted into a mission with the rest of them and you're just like, hey, I'm here. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously he has this element of amnesia going on as well.
Yes.
And then you start to realize that he is one of the most powerful people on the planet, which is a manufactured superhero made by Val's company, Ox Industries. Which feels like maybe a bit of a stand-in for Oscorp, right? Do you feel that it like rolls off the tongue in a similar way?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel like an idiot for not picking that up, but that makes sense.
I don't know. I wondered if like one of the post credits at the end was going to be like, the new owner of Oscorp is Norman Osborn.
But then doesn't like Oscorp exist in the Tom Holland movies still?
No, it doesn't.
No?
It doesn't. Only if anything, there is no Norman Osborn within our Tom Holland Spider-Man films, because when Willem Dafoe Green Goblin comes, I'm sounding like a fucking nerd here. When Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin comes in No Way Home, he says he tried to find himself and Harry within this industry, and there's no such person as Norman Osborn or Oscorp.
Interesting. So it's like they're leaving a gap for something, aren't they?
Yes. I imagine they will bring in somebody at some point. But yeah, from what we've been told, the information we've been told, no such thing. Anyway, sorry to be an absolute nerd there.
No. I mean, I said an incorrect statement, and you canonized it, so that's fine.
I couldn't let you carry on.
It was I wasn't sure. I asked the question, but thank you for clearing it up. Honestly,
wait.
We were saying about Bob being like the most powerful and potential superhero or supervillain, depending on what direction, thanks to Ox. Valentina's company.
Yeah, I can't fully remember the name of the company. Not a company I remember coming across in my comic book time. But Sentry, who is a comic book character, a relatively new one within the span of Marvel Comics.
Okay.
I remember them having a whole thing where he had always been part of the Avengers, but we had all had our minds wiped of him at some point because of the Void and him being too powerful. Some kind of weird thing went on where it was like, wink, wink, he'd always been part of the Marvel Universe since the start.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. They didn't do anything here. I thought it would be a little bit dodgy if they did that. You kind of like cut back to him appearing in like Age of Ultron or something and nobody remembering like some kind of weird, silly comic book thing.
That does sound like something conceptually fun, but silly on film. Yeah,
maybe a little bit I don't know, just kind of universe breaking if you tried to do that in a film. Like the Marvel comics kind of break the universe every other week with some of the stuff they do. So
lately more than
Sentry, he's cool though. He's got a cool costume.
Has he got a cool costume? I think that isn't the joke of the movie that it's like completely like lame.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's walked straight out of this.
I was just happy to see, because they black him out a lot in the trailers, which I thought was them trying to hide things in the trailers. Turns out, no, that is an actual decision they make within the film as well. When he becomes the Void, he is just this silhouette with like pinhole eyes, which is a really cool looking design, really.
I like the design, yeah.
And I don't know if they did manufacture some of the Sentry scenes so he was still this silhouette character, when really within the film he isn't, for this short segment of the film where he is basically Marvel Superman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's invincible, he's impenetrable, I really like, there's the scene, because he's built a rapport with the Thunderbolts, and so they go on a mission after Valentina steals Bob from them, basically. Takes him back and repurposes him, and tries to play on his soft paw, on his amnesia, and try to brainwashes him, essentially. Dones him with the costume, and then the team come up and they try to bring him back, but he's too far gone in that moment. I really like that moment, because whenever they're confronted with him and we see his powers and none of them can even touch him at that point, I love the decision to have them cower away and run to the elevator. That was like, I could never seen this in one of these movies. Like the fear on Florence Pugh's face while she tries to like escape the building is really cool. It was interesting. You're like, oh, good. Well, we're dealing with like bigger, he calls himself a god because she's put the words into his mouth, and he's like, yeah, maybe I am a god now. I don't even have to listen to you, Valentina. And she's like, oh crap, here I have to get the kill switch ready, get rid of this experiment again. It's a lot of fun.
It is interesting, and I think it works in a way as well, because I think even considering that very early fight scene that we see, which is great, there's a moment in it which kind of just basically lingers on Sentry / Bob. Doesn't cut away, as he basically stays in the same place and just very easily single-handedly takes them all on. A few flying moments and stuff like that, but where was I going with that? Yeah, you can tell, like, none of these, I think there's a joke early on in the film where it's like, so we will just shoot and punch, and it's like, yeah, all these characters do is shoot and punch. They have no chance against this guy. And I like that they're just like, okay, I guess we'll just have to see what Val does with Bob then. Like, we're not going to be able to get him back from here. But and then it goes to a more emotional place. I almost wish that he could have been Sentry maybe for a little bit longer, and that we had gotten to that place faster. So like almost the midpoint of the film is him being Sentry, and we see how the world reacts to an MCU Superman, and potentially how do you take down, the dark Superman, which is something the Suicide Squad films never got a chance to do. Within their films, but maybe I think there was the video game, wasn't there, like the Suicide Squad versus the Justice League, which got to play with a little bit of that. But it would have been funnier if Marvel were like, we can do this and we don't even have Superman. But maybe that's me as a fan going, I just want to see that.
Yeah, maybe they were like, the boys have sort of touched on this before. Maybe we're like, I know, also a time limit too, but
very much so.
I think you're right, because I think I did see the trailer, the first trailer, and the movie almost, like, the whole trailer almost centered itself on the city sequence. Like, I felt like, so to get a lot more movie than what we expected in the first 2/3 was kind of like, was a welcome surprise, because I did think it was going to be a punchy city fight movie with with emotional beats kind of thrown in, which it's only a portion of the movie. Yeah, I like the fact that it's kind of Spider-Man, Sam Raimi sort of stuff with on the ground level street stuff with saving civilians. Everybody gets a little moment. I thought that was really cool.
To show that these characters are, even though they're kind of losers, they do care, and that they don't want to hurt just your everyday civilians. So it was quite nice. It almost felt like we just haven't seen that in a while in a superhero film. It's just like superheroes saving people. Yeah, and I think that's kind of like a transition, not to go off the movie, but
I was watching a lot of trailers before the movie started. We had the Superman trailer. We had obviously the Fantastic Four trailer, and they were all those trailers feature moments of going back to the guys, the kids, and the humans on the street and saving them. And it feels like we're trying to, like, the studios are finally kind of recognizing, right, okay, let's go back a little bit. Go back to basics a little bit. Hopefully that's where it's going anyway.
Not everything has to be this kind of big multiverse world-ending thing, even though that's obviously where we're heading, but, you know.
Like, it's character. I think, like, you know, who cares? Like, I don't care about Black Adam punching the hell out of, you know, space monsters and lizards or whatever for like 40 minutes. I'm
proud of you for even remembering Black Adam, Chris. Out of all the people's names you could have taken right then, you went for Black Adam.
Black Adam. I was trying to think of any DC character. I mean, even like the previous iterations of Superman have sort of recently failed to kind of to handle a character like that too. It is hard. I mean, but the simplest answer always seems to be, well, simplicity in superhero movies. Keep it simple. Give us a character that we can latch onto, or characters. Give us a confrontation that's relatable, and window dress it well. I mean, it sounds easy on paper. I mean, and obviously it's hard to do. And make it feel original, but I think Thunderbolts gives it a really good try, and it balances the humor well. I love David Harbour as Alexei. I think what it sums up the movie in general is that a lot of these characters were half developed, and they kind of found the right pitch for all of them. Alexei included. He has some really good funny lines, kind of woven in throughout the film. I love Wyatt. I actually really like Wyatt Russell as John Walker.
Yeah, he is great. I think he gets the least character development in this film. Like, he starts an asshole and he still ends being an asshole, but we have a bit more insight as to
he's our asshole basically.
I remember him being slightly more, even though he does kill somebody cold-bloodedly with a Captain America shield. I remember him being a little bit more empathetic in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, he was somebody who, was this decorated soldier that was trying really hard to be Captain America, but had this side to him that wasn't great. But also, I think by the end of the film, almost feels used by his own country.
Sure.
And I just remember him being more redeemable. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen that. So, you know, if you had to boil it down to he's the asshole in the film, then fine. That's fine. I don't care, but I'm just saying I remember him being better.
Yeah, I think he just nails the characterization. I feel like he represents, without getting too political, we don't really like to go too far here, but I feel like he represents a type of angry man that kind of has developed in our sort of culture in the last sort of 10, 15 years, sort of like that sort of Andrew. He seems like somebody who would listen to Andrew Tate, or he's got the right face for it and all too. He seems to just really manifest that character really well.
Yeah.
You hate him, but you're like, oh, but he's really good at making me hate him.
Yeah, he's like somebody who would listen to Andrew Tate, but you could bring him back and be like, whoa, just hold on a little bit. Let me tell you why Andrew Tate's not good. Maybe, and he'd maybe like the cogs would start to turn, and he'd be like, okay, I'm being unbrainwashed from the manosphere. Like, you feel like you could drag him out of it.
I guess I'll cancel my my job application for ICE.
Yes, yeah. Maybe I won't listen to Joe Rogan as much. Yeah.
yeah. So he does that really well. To be fair, like, everybody's really fun in this movie. I mean, even Hannah John Kamen as Eva Starr, or Ghost, right?
Yep, Ghost.
Yeah, because she's kind of similar to who got killed off earlier in the film again. Remind
Taskmaster,
me. Taskmaster. She's similar in that regard. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, she wasn't like a villain.
Yeah. But she also wasn't like the most memorable villain either. So you can kind of start again with her a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember she was in Ready Player One, right? She was like the co-villain in that. She was like the right-hand man.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good. I'd watch it again. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I remember. I liked Ready Player One when I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. Like, honestly, I think even if you're really jaded, which I was semi-jaded, I want to go in and spend, I'm driving 30 minutes to the cinema and driving 30 minutes back. I want to enjoy myself. And I had a really good time. I watched this in IMAX. It looked gorgeous in IMAX. It was almost fully formatted for that screen. And it was just a really good experience. And none of it really rubbed up against me or annoyed me. And it sounds like such a wet excuse of a compliment for a film, but I had a lot of fun. It was really good, and I didn't expect it to be a movie about depression as well.
And the climactic fight ends with them essentially just giving the antagonist a hug, which I really liked. Like, so many of these big films just end with like punchy punch. I've punched you the hardest, so now the film ends. And this was like, no, we need to help this guy, take him under our wing, and this guy just needs a hug.
The power of a hug, man. Everybody sometimes just needs a good, proper hug.
Yeah. I think as well, not to deviate from the hug thing. Sorry, I feel like I'm being one of those people who's like, I don't know about my emotions. So let's move on from the hug.
Not at all.
But yeah, no, what I was going to say was one of the characters we haven't spoken a lot about, and I think goes to show that maybe he was disserviced in this film, maybe a little bit, was Bucky. Because we keep talking about all these characters and how interesting and roguelike and all this.
It seems like he was busy.
Yeah, I felt like Bucky was maybe a little bit underserviced here, considering I think he found his footing in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, and I much prefer him with short hair. But that's just it's a design thing. But yeah, it just felt like I could have had more with Bucky. I love Bucky.
Yeah, I love Bucky.
You talk about having these great actors and actresses in Marvel. Well, Sebastian Stan is actually one of the best actors around at the moment, right?
Yeah,
like, he's insane.
There is an argument.
He should be co-lead in this film with Florence Pugh.
I mean, I haven't seen A Different Man yet. I heard he's amazing in that, but I was really impressed with him in The Apprentice. He was incredible in that movie. He's he's a dedicated and very nuanced actor when he gets the chance to be, but he's never bad. Like, he's not even bad in this. I love his introduction. Well, not his action introduction in the movie is awesome when he's on the motorbike.
Yeah.
It comes in, it kind of almost, it's almost like George Miller directed that little bit of film for him. It was really cool.
Yeah. The action sequences are really well done. They're easy to follow. Well, they're fun.
I can see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. But yeah, I think, I have a few quibbles with, I would have liked more Bucky, but I like Bucky. And I think, since this is the spoiler segment, all the stuff at the end with the asterisks on the Thunderbolts, like, oh, they're not the Thunderbolts, they're the New Avengers. It's just like, I don't know, that wasn't the ending that I wanted from this film, that was so more about character and emotion, that just to have them almost stumble into becoming the Avengers because Val tricked them at the right second into that, was just it was so plot heavy in terms of moving us forward in this universe, and then it ends and I thought, no, this isn't how it ends. Or in my mind I was I now need to see what each of these characters does post this moment. So the first post-credit scene where Red Guardian is looking at himself in a cereal box, he's proud of becoming this hero. And I want to jump into Yelena, have a little montage of what these characters are doing and how they've learned from this. I've needed a character ending, I think, rather than a plot ending, which was just there to move us forward we're going into the Avengers.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. Actually, now that you're talking about it, it's actually kind of rubbing me a little bit worse than it did at the time, because you're sort of right. The especially the post credit scene with the 18 months later, and they're all
14.
14. Sorry,
sorry, Chris. Sorry.
Okay,
nerd out here.
A lot can happen in 4 months. I understand that, so that is my bad. The 14 months later post credit scene. And it is a little bit like they've gone full Guardians at that moment, with the interactions, or a little bit like that semi-bickery humor.
Yeah.
So I hope that they just managed to find the humanity and conflict when we bring them back around next time, and that they haven't transitioned into kind of goofballs again.
Yeah.
This isn't just like another. Yeah, I'm a little bit scared about that, actually.
Well, the next film is Avengers Doomsday, Chris. That is the next film. Oh, well, no, sorry. Fantastic Four, then Avengers Doomsday. But that just feels mad, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we have to talk about Fantastic Four because we're talking about aggressive marketing. I haven't seen as much aggressive marketing before watching a Marvel movie as I did on Saturday when I saw Thunderbolts, because I got about 3 adverts for Fantastic Four. In IMAX, you get a 10, 9, 8, 7, get 10 to 1 countdown before the movie starts. It says preparing you for IMAX, and it's showcasing the sound system. They tailor made it for the Fantastic Four movie this time.
Yes.
Which they've never done that for any movie. And it was almost like you were about to watch Fantastic Four. It was really weird. And then, obviously, at the end of the credits, I was watching the credits go past, and I watched the soundtrack listing, and it said theme from Fantastic Four. And I was like, what? When did that appear in the movie? I don't remember that. So that kind of gave the game away a little bit for anybody who actually watches those credits, like me or you. But
also, like, does that post-credit scene spoil the end of Fantastic Four? Like, obviously we don't know, but it definitely feels like it does.
Well, it gives you the recipe for many theories, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then also you have the fact that when Marvel announced who was in the cast for the Avengers Doomsday film, they mention all of the Thunderbolts apart from Taskmaster. So it's kind of like, well, now I know they all survive. And it's just like, stop spoiling these things. We got to have, like, I appreciate there aren't really that big of stakes in these films. They try to create some fake ones by killing off Taskmaster early on, so you go, oh, anything could happen, but really we all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But whatever, Marvel, fine. I just think, like, they do a disservice sometimes to end on plot instead of character, to then even have the post-credit scene almost take away that fact that they're the new Avengers, because you find out within these 14 months that there's been a whole debate as to whether they are the Avengers, and Sam Wilson's has gone off and sorted out his own Avengers team, and they're fighting over copyright. You're just like, well, that kind of takes away that. And then I don't know if you've seen as well, but they're actually, some of the marketing now for the film is ripping away the Thunderbolts logo and replacing it with the new Avengers. So even within 2 weeks of this film coming out, they're spoiling that fact.
Yeah.
I just think,
let people enjoy it. Yeah.
Let people enjoy it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm starting to get ranty now, but Marvel needed this to work to show that, Marvel are back with quality stuff, and we can start to build some excitement for Avengers. I think Fantastic Four is going to be good. They're definitely advertising it as if it might be, because they need it to work, so that, moving into our next Avengers film, we're not there going, God, Marvel are the worst. I can't believe they're releasing an Avengers film. At least the last 2 films in our mind will be like, that was really good.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, You never know. You never know. They're not like, I'm not one back yet, but this was a really good, strong indicator of maybe potentially better things to come.
Yeah, hopefully the quality stays within this kind of chamber.
Yeah. I can one of these every year or two. I'm happy. I can do. I can handle that. Yeah. Just don't give me that. I'm done with the homework. I've given up on the homework.
I'm not watching Hawkeye.
I don't care if it's set around Christmas.
You gonna watch Ironheart?
What?
Okay. Well, let's move on from Thunderbolt, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, new Netflix streaming film Havoc from Gareth
Evans.
I almost got it wrong last episode. No, I did get it wrong. I didn't almost get it wrong. I did get it wrong. He is the director of The Raid 2. Was it The Apostle? Was one of his films?
Not sure. I kind of just know him as the raid guy.
I know him as the raid guy as well. Welsh guy.
Apostle's right. Yeah.
Apostle's right. So he's come back now with a new kind of action thriller film starring Tom Hardy, who I feels like we've been talking about him a lot recently with all the Spunk films.
Ugh, just don't say that anymore.
I'm going to keep saying it until that episode was our biggest episode.
Yeah, like I think he's come a lot more back into conversation lately because I guess he kind of had a hiatus, didn't he? From films, anyway.
Well, you say that, but this, I believe, started filming. So Havoc started filming in like 2021, 2022.
Oh, wow, really? That's
Yeah. And then I believe because of the writer's strike and the Actors Guild strike, there were delays to it. And parts of it needed to be reshot because they were going to have these reshoots just before the strikes. So basically, it's a film that's kind of been like half done for a little while now, and Netflix have just been trying to figure out what to do with it, which maybe doesn't show absolute confidence in it. But that being said, I don't think it's awful, which is a terrible way to start the review.
We haven't not spoke about this one privately at all, so
no, yeah, I think it's absolutely fine. It is about Tom Hardy plays basically a corrupt cop who has to do one last job for the mob boss / mayor of, I'm not even sure what city it's supposed to be.
I don't know. Like the city is definitely a vibe. It's like Matt Reeves' Batman meets like Michael Mann's Collateral. You know, it's somewhere between those two.
It also feels like cyberpunky at times.
It does. Even though neon.
Even though it's not a sci-fi or futuristic movie, it is like this neo noir, very comic booky, like even more comic booky than Thunderbolts, one would say.
Definitely, with I felt that immediately with the opening action set piece, where with the cop cars and the washing machines falling out the back of the truck. It was like it was hyper sped up. It was very stylized, like the cars coming into frame and then swooshing around the corners of these streets.
Very video gamey, I thought as well. But
there's inspiration from John Wick here. There's gun fu.
100%. 100%. So Tom Hardy does one last job to rescue the son of the kind of city's main mob boss, but also mayor, whose son is implicated in the murder of another kind of gang, and that could spell disaster for him, and basically he's got a hit on him. And Tom Hardy has to get him out of there, get him safe, and then he can stop working for Forrest Whitaker, who plays his character, and then get out of there. But he's Tom Hardy's a deadbeat dad, a corrupt cop. He's done some pretty dodgy things in his past. The police officer who gets I guess maimed by the washing machine is like one of his old partners who he gets on well with the wife and all this kind of stuff. So there's a few things going on, but at the end of the day, I think the story is not the strong part of this film. If anything, the story is a little bit lackluster, and you almost go, "Is this film good?" And then it picks itself up in the action scenes where you go, "God, Gareth Evans, man, he's so good at the action."
Yeah, the story is definitely secondary to the experience. It feels very like video game crime drama. It's very simple, like overly contrived. Like there's too many characters in this thing to give a shit. That's the problem. But I'm going to disagree with you on I felt completely unsure about the action the whole time. Sometimes it was cool. I love these like POV shots of like Uzi and submachine guns, like almost like strapped to the gun. I quite like those. But then sometimes it's kind of like I'm feeling a little bit sick, just kind of like trying to keep up with it. It's definitely like there's digital blood galore. Like every time somebody gets poked by a finger, there's just a projectile blood spurt that comes out. It's a lot. It's definitely going for something, and it definitely is from the guy who did the raid. It definitely has that DNA in there.
Yeah, it is quite full on, heavily stylized, quite brutal, quite violent, like quite cartoony still. But yeah, I mean, I had fun with it.
Yeah, I do not mind gratuitous violence. If it's done well, awesome. I'm all there for it. I just felt like Walker, Tom Hardy's character, was a little bit. I feel like because his character is sort of maneuvered as being fatigued and wanting out of all of this. Like he literally, that's the whole his whole character development is that he wants to get out of this whole system of corruption. But he has no trouble inflicting pain in the most gratuitous way possible. If that's like hanging somebody on like a hook on the wall or whatever like that, or inflicting prolonged pain. It's like there's just all these little tiny things that are like completely at argument with each other the whole movie. Like even the action is kind of like the movie is self-serious. The soundtrack is really heavy-handed. I felt like the music was really like, we are going for serious, dirty, undercover, underground crime drama here. And then sometimes it'll be like a little bit goofy. With some side characters that are kind of thrown in. They'll throw in a joke about like, oh, is that how you run? Like when a guy runs away from him. And then you're like, oh, am I supposed to find this movie funny, or is it like, or am I going for like hardcore like tone here? But I don't know. It was a lot of that going on here.
Yeah, it's a little all over the place, isn't it? Like I listened to an interview with Gareth Evans afterwards, and saying how he had basically written the script with like a few ideas in mind, but he doesn't write the action scenes. Like the action scenes are specific, and they come up with that in the process. And then there are like story beats within the action scenes which they develop as they go on, and that informs the script. But it felt like maybe it didn't inform the script too much. Like you said, there's some contradictions at play here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it does. I guess it gave them the room to kind of use the space, and because that is important. Like they do use whatever set piece, if it's a nightclub or if it's a pile up of cars, stuck in traffic in the city. I think it is New York. Is it? Is this movie in New York?
Well, I thought that, but then it has
shot in Atlanta.
I thought it was shot in Cardiff.
Oh, is it?
On the Wikipedia here.
Because
maybe it was both. It said principal photography. Remember, this is Wikipedia, but it says principal photography in Cardiff in Wales.
Okay. I just realized this is where the bleeding in of movies and the episodes coming in. I remember though it's actually the Thunderbolts that Atlanta was in.
That makes sense. That is a mainstay of Marvel, though they have moved a lot of their stuff to London now. So there you go.
Yeah, got that. You get that big "Made in Georgia" logo at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what's stuck in my head. Sorry, don't want to confuse.
This was not obviously Cardiff though, so don't worry. It does not look like Cardiff.
No, it doesn't look like Cardiff. Maybe somebody who's from Cardiff could like chime in and say, "Nope, this is what Cardiff's like." But I don't think so.
No, I mean I'm not too far from Cardiff. I've been over there quite a lot. This does not look like Cardiff. So they did a pretty good job, I guess.
I guess so.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see another kind of like action-heavy martial arts film from Gareth Evans. Is this his best? Not even close. But there are like 3 action scenes in this film that just stand out, and they're great, and A-class action, but D-class story.
Yeah. I would say C-class action for me. I don't know. I think there's definitely an artist who is behind this, and I like that. It has personality. It's not your typical Netflix like crime drama in terms of like bog standard action. There is definitely artistry and prestige behind it, but I just feel like it was kind of misdirect. I felt the digital corners of it a little bit too much.
Yeah.
It was just sometimes the shaky cam was a little bit nauseating, but it's frustrating because you're watching this and I'm like, oh, I can see the good movie in here. I can see the good movie, and I think like just get the right team together. I think that and Gareth Evans, I think he's still got a good one in him. I feel like there's another The Raid level hit within his future repertoire if he manages to kind of grab at it. And
you are seeing another film like we're discussing with the older Marvel films. You're seeing another film that's been affected by COVID and strikes. So we're out of that stage now. We're fully out of that stage. Maybe Gareth Evans' next project will be more fully realized.
Yeah. Overall, Alex, I would say I would not recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend it also. I'm sort of like, this is an ultimate middle of the road movie for me.
Yeah, if you've never seen a Gareth Evans film before, I'd say give it a miss and go watch The Raid. But if you want to see where this guy's going and what piques this guy's interest, I'd say, jump on.
Sure.
And, it's got Tom Hardy in it, and middle-aged British women love Tom Hardy.
It seems so, doesn't it? Not to generalize, but that does seem to be
Facebook is just full of memes with quotes that are not his quotes but are credited to him, with a picture of him standing there looking all gruff and sexy.
Do you remember when Legend came out? Like, almost like, it was years of that. It was years of people referencing him in Legend. I'm like, I'm not there for that.
Yeah. This is the section of the show where we catch up with our ongoing series, our Blindspots on the Sight and Sound Greatest Films of All Time list, where we very slowly make our way down the list of films we haven't seen before from that list. And this week we're on number 14. We're almost there, Chris.
Yes.
Number 14 according to Letterboxd, which is our second Agnes Varda film on the list, Cleo from 5 to 7, which is a film about this real life, or I say real life, a real time portrait of a singer set adrift within Paris in the 60s as she awaits the test results of her biopsy, which she's pretty sure are not going to be good. This is Agnes Varda doing, so far we've only seen her kind of documentary film within the Sight and Sound Blindspots. And that's kind of, I know Agnes Varda more as a documentarian rather than a
feature filmmaker.
A feature filmmaker, yes, thank you. But yeah, so I think I've only seen one or two of her actual kind of like feature films. So yeah, good to see this one, which is highly regarded as one of her best, and kind of is very much within that French new wave of cinema that we saw, Jean-Luc Godard doing in the 60s as well, kind of playing around with time and space and what we know about film. But yeah, you saw it last night, Chris. What did you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, I managed to probably see this the same way you did. Subscribe to the BFI streaming channel on Amazon Prime.
That's correct.
So I watched it on there, and sometimes, like, I love the BFI. It's a really cheap subscription service, but the quality isn't usually the best. Sometimes it's not up to date. This copy, however, is a Curzon copy of Cleo from 5 to 7, is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
The movie just it is gorgeous. So yeah, like, this is a French New Wave film. This is Agnes Varda's, like, her sort of like a magnum opus in terms of that era of her career. And I usually don't, I have a hard time with Jean-Luc Godard films because I find them a lot more opaque. I find this one a little bit more my speed. I think because this is the first time where I didn't really see the female character as an overt object to her male counterpart. It was really cool to kind of follow a character forming in front of us and just kind of be our POV for the entire journey. I actually quite like. Usually we have these sort of in these French New Wave films, it's usually about people in the film industry, and to have somebody sort of adjacent but be a pop star instead was quite cool and quite different, and lends to some really interesting musical moments in the film too.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you? I really like this movie, Alex. How did you get on?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Yeah, it was great. I love the use at the start of the tarot cards to kind of, bring you up to speed with everything you need to know about this character before the film starts. It was almost like a cheat code to context, which I loved, but it was really fun at the same time. But then I thought it just did a really good job of getting you into that mind space of, I am potentially about to hear news that's going to change my life. And potentially you get this awful, dreadful feeling that it might even shorten her life. Like, this could be a death sentence for her. So
Yes.
as she's waiting for these things, and we, maybe to different extents, we've all had to wait on news before, to kind of put you in that mind space of somebody, and it just feels like the city goes on despite the fact that this bad news surrounds you like a cloud, and how you deal with it, how it changes your perception of everything going on around you. I just think it did a really good job of putting you in those shoes, and then you never fully know if it's because she's a pop star and the world's looking at her, or whether she has this daunting feeling and that's why everybody's looking at her, or because it's probably because Agnes Varda shot this just on the streets of Paris and people are going, what's going on here? And it's great. I enjoyed it. Is it up there for me with Agnes Varda's other kind of documentary work? I think that's where she really shines. Like that for me. Like The Gleaners and I, which we did early on in this series, like just blew me away. Like this didn't blow me away. I really liked it. I like French New Wave stuff. Like, know that already. Yeah. I'm a little bit more partial to the Jean-Luc Godards, even if I can recognize he's done some absolute mad as well. But here I enjoyed it. It was kind of, I liked it. I can't say much more. It's difficult. I liked it.
Okay, I guess we could sort of talk about the structure of it, because as the title alludes to, this whole movie is kind of operates within a 2-hour time frame.
Yes.
which I must say, for a 2-hour time frame, she gets a lot done in the day.
Yes. But it's not even a 2-hour time frame, it's an hour and a half. So the title of the film is relatively misleading. It should be Cleo from 5 to 6:30.
Right, yeah, sure, of course. And
not as catchy.
I was a little bit like, she's like navigating like 4 cab drives, shopping, going to cafes and restaurants and meeting people all within this hour and a half time frame. And then I was like, that seems it's unbelievable. But also then I kind of dawned on me at the end of the film where it was like, okay, but it's kind of simulating what it's like to wait for news. Wait for news that could potentially be bad. Is that you're constantly, I don't know about you, I'm sure everybody's like this, when you're waiting on something, if it's a test result for an exam or something, or something medical or anything like that, really family news, you tend to look at the clock perpetually, despite your best interest, and time just seems to go so slowly. So I feel like, I'm not trying to give her, like, Agnes Varda a free pass or anything, because I really love her as a filmmaker, but I felt like that was intrinsic to the core meaning of this movie. I don't know, do you agree with that, or do you feel like she just hasn't got a grasp on what time is?
No, I agree with you there. And I think it's also got something to say that the extended like third act of the film, where she meets is a soldier, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's I don't think they're clear about it. He's in some sort of like military role, yeah.
Yes, and they do a little bit of something that feels very much like it inspired like Before Sunrise, where they do a little bit of a walk and talk around Paris. And I thought that is the only time where you're not thinking about the news, right? And I wondered if that was trying to say something about the fact that love makes time go slower. I don't know. Maybe I'm philosophizing a little bit.
No, this is cool. This is what's good about movies like this. Well, go on. What were you going to say?
I know that, but there are also a lot of references within that sequence where they're like, "Don't worry, you won't die if you miss this carriage," and stuff like that. There's a lot of like on the nose lines like that. You can tell I haven't seen it in 2 weeks, and you saw it yesterday. I can't remember all the things, but I did like it.
Well, the movie did a funny thing to me in that last third act, where I had a sort of different experience to yourself, where I felt like I was getting butterflies in it was weird. Even though I'm watching a movie from 1962 and I'm completely removed from this scenario, I feel like Varda just did such an incredible job of emulating that experience of waiting for bad news. And it usually, whenever the news comes very quickly and it's coming soon, sooner rather than later, and our demeanor tends to be a little bit more a little bit more spiky. We tend to be a little bit more not as approachable as human beings socially, and it kind of like reminded me when somebody comes to comfort you and overcompensates in the moment to kind of make you feel better.
Sure.
So like it kind of gave me that feeling like, oh my god, yeah, that's how I know the news is right around the corner, is that everything's like, I'm getting a little bit more edgy, but he's getting nicer. So in a way, like he did his job. He was obviously a very, very charming individual, but I could see, depending on who you are and what you bring to the film, you can get a sort of different mode there. Yeah, I think Paris is as much a character as Cleo is.
Yeah.
I love the candid photography, kind of following Parisians through the street. You're so right. Everybody's reaction to her is like bewilderment. I don't know whether that is because of her beauty or whether there's a camera crew following her, but it sometimes that sort of limitation, that limit of facility as a filmmaker grants you these wonderful moments. It's not like Celine and Julie Go Boating, a movie Alex didn't like, but I liked, where there's like a marquee sequence where everybody on the street is watching, going, "What the hell is happening?" And it doesn't really seem to have any sort of metaphoric coincidence or meaning to it. Yeah. Here, it felt like it was actually intrinsic into it was integral to what the movie was trying to do. And a really interesting character. Cleo's an interesting character too, right? I mean, she's somebody who comes across, well, we're told by everybody around her that she's quite entitled to begin with, quite bratty, gets what she wants and kind of floats from scene to scene. But then we kind of realize later on why that's come to be. She has a musical moment later on where we kind of understand that, yes, I'm this pop star, but I just sing the songs. Like everybody else around me, I'm kind of like their little porcelain doll that I kind of portray their artistic vision. And there's a lot of the boredom and the inner frustration that comes from that. She talks about ugliness a lot. As long as I'm dressed up, I might have something in my stomach, but as long as I'm decorated in the way that everybody expects me to be, I'm not ugly. And that was quite sad, actually.
Yeah. Did you ever get around to seeing Pablo Larraín's Maria?
No, I did not.
No.
Oh, yes, because I'm a big fan of Spencer and Jackie.
I didn't realize until watching this film that I think this film is a massive inspiration for that film. It almost feels like a modern day, well, I say modern day, it's still set in the past, but like a modern adaptation of Cleo from 5 to 7, despite the fact that Maria Callas is obviously a real figure that we're talking with, or working with. But yeah, it follows a similar thing of like Maria in that film. We know that we're getting to this end result, which is her death.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see her kind of final days, might even be final weeks. I can't fully remember. I didn't love the film, but if anything, it is very similar to Cleo 5-7. She's a musician. She is a diva, an even bigger diva than Cleo in this film is. And you see the characters around her, are they friends or are they colleagues? How do they hinder? How do they support? And just very interesting, very interesting. I almost would say watch it as a double bill. I think it works as a double bill.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Because Larraín usually operates more in the sort of space of horror, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting. Because I wouldn't say this movie it dips into like anxiety of time, but I would never say, you're still enjoying Paris. Like,
yes.
Even because it's so naturally lit, even though it's black and white, like you can feel that summer, that presence of summer, kind of that sunshine kind of oozing in, and it's hard not to make Paris look really beautiful in 1962.
Well, some of it's color and some of it's black and white, isn't it? It's
for the opening tarot scene, we get some color, don't we?
Yeah. Do we get color elsewhere in the film? I can't remember. I felt like it bounced around a little bit at times.
Oh, okay. I only remember color in that opening scene.
Is the short film in color? I'm trying to think now.
Maybe that's it.
Where you John Goddard? John Goddard?
John?
John Goddard! Where Jean-Luc Godard and Anna Karenina make little cameo appearances.
Oh, of course they do.
It's the MCU of French New Wave cinema.
Well, like overall, like I think the frustrations I usually have with Jean-Luc Godard in terms of non-linearity within the storyline, it was quite nice not to kind of, like, I didn't feel like Cleo was homework. Like, no. I enjoyed the linearity of it and kind of just following this journey. It gave a lot of space for me to really understand the character.
Yeah. Well, I think Godard's more concerned at times less with story and more about breaking the rules and showing you that he is breaking the rules
100%.
Whereas I think Varda is
she's a humanist, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a humanist. She wants you to empathize with Cleo. She wants you to be in her shoes for this hour and a half. Like, I don't think she is as fascinated with tricks and spectacle. Like, she just wants yeah, she's telling a very humanist story. You're right. She's a humanist director, and one that we both have said we need to see more of.
Yeah, I mean, but there is you will think of it's inescapable. Like, there is one foot in Jean-Luc Godard in terms of its visual style, but there is also one foot in traditional Hollywood too. There's that sequence halfway through the film where she sings that new song that her writers have came up with, which kind of, unfortunately for her, mirrors everything that she's internally going through. And it does this thing where she is silhouetted, she's surrounded by darkness, and it kind of goes to Hollywood-style musical close-up, which was really cool. I really enjoyed that, actually. So there is experimentation here, but you're right, not to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to rewind that for 2 minutes and try to understand what actually transpired there. It's a good marriage of the two.
Definitely. Does it warrant its space on the list?
It's hard. I would need to. Someone probably a lot more educated than me could probably tell me why. I think this has influenced, like many films on the list, has influenced a lot of films, and its DNA I can see in so many things that it's hard for me to kind of take ownership of this and put it so highly on the list.
Yeah.
Only because I'm familiar. I have no reservations. I really enjoy this experience, and I was surprised by the anxiety it gave me and how emotionally wrapped up in the final moments as I was, compared to what I was expecting. And I was really enjoying. It's kind of similar to News from Home, the documentary that we both really enjoyed earlier on. Chantal Ackerman's documentary film, where I really do feel like I'm getting a unique slice of a time period that I wouldn't get elsewhere. So this film you can enjoy narratively for our main character, but the peripheral stuff going on in the background is fascinating too. So yeah, I love this movie, but yeah, I don't think I would put it in my top 20,
Yeah, I'm the same. It's more difficult at this part in the list to be like, does it justify its space in the upper echelons of the greatest films of all time? For me, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but does it have a place on the list overall? Probably. I couldn't.
You struggle to argue against it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and I love Agnes Varda. Everything I've seen of hers, I've enjoyed. Like I said, I think I prefer her documentary films more than these types of films, but she's a fascinating person, and I think we've said before, we'll say it again after this list is out of the way, is somebody that we're going to want to explore her cinematography a bit more of.
Absolutely, Alex. I think you're right. I think it's of her documentaries, she struggles to not include herself, her own vulnerability, and because she's such a humanist, she has to, her way into understanding people is to approach it from her point of view. So that ends up making the original subject matter of whatever she's documenting twice as interesting, because she is an interesting person. And here she's behind the camera. You can feel her behind the camera, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I want to I'd be diving into the documentaries first. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's our Sight and Sound list. Another one done.
And everyone bites the dust.
Another one. next week, you're not here, are you?
I'm not here.
But we have an episode.
You might be surprised because in like 2 days' time, if you turn around, I'll probably be behind you.
Yes, that's so true. I don't know why it took me a second to understand what you were talking about, but yes, you're over in Bristol before you're then away to Belgium.
Yes, I am doing something a little bit. Yeah, we're going to Bruges first of all.
In Bruges.
And, in Bruges, we're a big fan of the film on the show. I've seen it countless times since it came out in 2008, and we were actually staying in the hotel that they stay in the movie.
No way! Did I know that? I don't think I knew that. Did I?
Well, I felt like Lauren would have just mentioned that. I thought it would have been the first thing mentioned. So I feel like we just mentioned it, just didn't mention it again. It turns out it actually is. It's not like it's in the movie, but it's shit. It actually does look like a decent hotel as well. So we are going to be right on the canal. I'll send you pictures, Alex, of any locations that I recognize from the movie.
Can you recreate some scenes?
I'm not going to recreate the scene where I jump off the top of the Belfry Tower, if that's what you mean. But I will be eating lots of chips and meat, nice. and a lot of Belgian beers.
So, yeah. And chocolate, Belgian chocolate.
And chocolate, yes.
Are you taking your film angle hat like I did to New York?
Yes, I'll bring it. I'll wrap.
You better. Represent. I want to see that. I want to see pictures of that.
It's not because I love the hat, but I just don't suit it. I look weird.
Yeah, I guess you got more of a square head.
I don't know. Yeah, I do. I can get away with a cap. I like a cap.
Yeah, you do.
But any other sort of hat. Yeah. I love westerns, but put a cowboy hat on me, I'll look like I'm delivering milk or something. It's terrible.
Yeah, you're right. You're a cap guy. I think probably my long hair does a lot of the heavy lifting.
That's the thing.
Hats.
Because I've got short hair, like right now, as soon as I put a beanie hat on me, I just look like I'm probably bald underneath there. Nothing against being bald, but it just doesn't suit me right now. So yeah, looking forward to that, Alex. And then nice. Naturally that creates a gap.
Well, you say creates a gap, but we have a Ghibli angle to come, and there might be something the week after. So,
isn't past us good? You know, thanks to these things,
we're very good. We're very good this year. I think we've only had 2 breaks. There might be a third, but at the moment, looking good. So, what's the next Ghibli angle film? It's Kiki's Delivery Service. So, if you're a fan of Kiki's Delivery Service, that's next week's episode ready for you there.
There you go. So that has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, then you can find that in the show notes. Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. Goodbye.
Au revoir.
Merde.
Shit.